What changed in El Salvador? For décadas, the country lived under the shadow of gang violence so severe that it was often described as the murder capital of the world.
In many neighborhoods, gangs like MS-13 and Barrio 18 controlled streets, extorted businesses, and forced families to live by unwritten rules of fear. For ordinary Salvadorans, daily life meant navigating invisible borders. A wrong turn, the wrong color shirt, or simply being in the wrong place at the wrong time could carry deadly consequences. Violence was not just a statistic. It was a system that shaped how people worked, traveled, and raised their children.
For many years, El Salvador struggled with the belief that criminals could be negotiated with, contained, or eventually reintegrated.
But for thousands of families, forgiveness felt impossible while extortion, murder, and terror continued. When violence keeps returning, public patience with mercy begins to collapse. Then came March 2022. Over 3 days, a surge of killings left 87 people dead, including 62 in a single day. The shock of that weekend pushed the government to declare a state of exception and launch a sweeping anti-gang crackdown that transformed the country's politics and streets.
Under President Nayib Bukele, security forces received expanded powers to arrest suspected gang members, and the campaign quickly became one of the most aggressive in Latin America. More than 91,000 people have since been detained. Supporters call it a necessary response to years of terror. Critics call it mass incarceration on an unprecedented scale.
One of the most visible symbols of this new era is CCAR, the massive high-security prison built to hold thousands of detainees. For Bukele's supporters, it represents control, order, and the end of gang dominance. For human rights groups, it represents something darker, a system marked by due process violations, harsh detention conditions, and a weakened rule of law. The results are undeniable on the surface. Homicides dropped dramatically after the crackdown, and El Salvador now reports murder levels far below the nightmare years that came before. Streets that once felt sealed off by gang rule are now open in ways many Salvadorans had not experienced for decades.
But the story is not a simple victory. Rights organizations and independent observers warn that the same policies that reduced violence also widened state power, weakened legal safeguards, and left many families without clear answers about the fate of detained relatives.
The country's new calm came with a serious cost. Today, walking through San Salvador can feel like entering a different country. People speak more openly about safety, tourism has grown, and the government has turned security into its defining achievement.
Yet beneath the restored order lies an uncomfortable question. When a nation chooses punishment over mercy and security above nearly everything else, what kind of country does it become?
El Salvador's transformation is real. So is the fear, the silence, and the sacrifice that made it possible. The world is now watching to see whether this model becomes a warning, a blueprint, or both.